Part 1. Name your price. Those were the first words Adrian Moretti ever spoke to me, and I remember thinking they sounded less like an offer than a fact he had never been forced to question. Rain pressed against the floor-to-ceiling windows of the Moretti Hope Foundation, turning the Chicago skyline into a blur of silver lights and black glass. It was 11:47 on a Thursday night, and I was still at my desk with cold coffee, aching shoulders, and an audit report that refused to balance. Everyone else had gone home hours earlier. Margaret Shaw, the foundation director, had left after reminding me not to miss the board meeting scheduled for 8 the next morning. My father had texted twice from St. Catherine's Hospital, telling me to stop worrying about his medical bills and get some sleep. I ignored both messages. Sleep did not erase numbers, and numbers were the only things in my life that had never learned how to lie. The missing amount was $8,400,000. I checked it 3 times, then 5. The money had been divided into smaller transfers and sent to consulting companies with polished names, clean letterheads, and no verifiable addresses. Each payment carried the same project code, YMM 10. I searched the foundation archive and found the name attached to it. Amelia Marie Moretti, Adrian's mother, dead for 10 years. My fingers went still over the keyboard. The room suddenly felt colder, though the thermostat read 72 degrees. I opened the newest file and saw her digital authorization beneath a transfer approved only 6 weeks earlier. A dead woman had authorized millions of dollars. Behind me, the elevator chimed. One soft sound, then silence. I told myself it was security, the cleaning crew, anyone ordinary. But the footsteps crossing the marble floor were too measured, too unhurried. A man who feared being caught walked quickly. A man who owned the building never had to. I closed the file, but not before saving an encrypted copy to the secure audit drive inside my purse. Working late, Ms. Bennett? His voice was low and controlled. I turned. Adrian Moretti stood 20 feet away in a charcoal suit, rain still shining on the shoulders of his coat. I had seen his photograph in annual reports, but photographs had failed to capture the silence that followed him into a room. He did not look angry. That would have been easier. He looked curious. His eyes moved from my face to the ledger on my screen. "How much did you see?" he asked. I stood slowly. "Enough to know your mother has been approving transfers from the grave." Something changed in his expression. Not shock. Recognition. He walked to the conference table and placed a leather folder on the marble surface. Inside was a blank check already bearing his signature. "Write any number," he said. "Then forget my name." I thought of my father's hospital balance, my student loans, the apartment ceiling that leaked every spring. One number could have repaired my entire life. I picked up the check, looked Adrian Moretti directly in the eyes, and pushed it back across the table. "No." Part 2. For one full second, Adrian Moretti did not move. The rain whispered against the glass behind him, and somewhere deep in the building, an air vent clicked on with a soft metallic hum. His eyes dropped to the check, then returned to mine. Men like him were probably accustomed to hesitation, bargaining, gratitude, and fear. I had offered none of those things. "You understand what you are refusing?" he asked. "I understand exactly what you offered." My voice sounded steadier than I felt. That was not my question. He stepped closer to the marble table, not threatening and not hurried. Somehow that made the distance between us feel smaller. "Your father owes $192,000 to St. Catherine's Hospital. Your student loans total $46,000. Your lease expires in 3 months. My hand tightened around the strap of my purse. "You investigated me. You listed the hospital debt and student loans in an application to the Foundation's Employee Hardship Program 6 months ago. After the archive system flagged your access tonight, security reviewed your personnel file. That does not make it less invasive." "No," he said. "It makes it fast." I should have been terrified. Part of me was. Another part was too tired to pretend that money had transformed his intrusion into kindness. "Then investigate the missing $8,400,000, I said. "Not me." Adrian studied me for a long moment. His silence was not empty. It felt calculated, as though he were testing the weight of every answer before choosing one. $3 million, he said at last. "Your father receives private care. Your debts disappear. You resign tomorrow and never speak about these accounts." The number landed harder than the first offer because now it had details. My father in a better room. Specialists we could not afford. A future without collection notices hidden beneath grocery coupons. I saw all of it. That was what made my answer hurt. No. His jaw tightened. Why? Because the money is not yours to use as a bargaining chip. It belongs to the clinics, scholarship students, and families this foundation claims to serve. You think I stole it? I think someone wants me to believe you did. That stopped him. It was the first honest reaction I had seen. His eyes narrowed, not with anger, but attention. Explain. I pulled a printed ledger from my bag and placed it beside his untouched check. The transfers are too obvious. Every payment uses your mother's project code. Every authorization leads back to your family. Whoever designed this wanted the trail discovered. Adrian looked down at the pages. And you said nothing to Margaret? Not yet. The police? No. Why? I took a slow breath. Because I need 7 days. His gaze lifted. For what? 7 days for you to find out who is stealing from a dead woman. During that time, I will keep the files private. And after 7 days? If you do nothing, I turn over everything. The city lights moved across his face as rain slid down the windows. He should have dismissed me. Instead, he closed the leather folder and slipped the check inside. You are either very brave or very foolish, Claire Bennett. I have been called both. He reached for his phone, then paused. You should not return to your apartment tonight. That was not part of the agreement. Someone accessed the archive using your credentials 20 minutes ago. I held a stare. I did not agree to be controlled. No, he said quietly. But before you decide where to go, you should meet the people who just discovered that someone is trying to make you responsible for the theft. Then the elevator chimed again, and 3 unfamiliar men stepped onto the floor. Part 3. The 3 men stepped from the elevator wearing dark coats and expressions that revealed nothing. Adrian did not turn toward them immediately. He only looked at me and said, "Stay close." I hated how quickly my body obeyed. One of the men carried a tablet. Another remained near the elevator. The third approached Adrian and lowered his voice. The building access logs were altered 20 minutes ago. Someone used Ms. Bennett's credentials to enter the archive server from the 32nd floor. My stomach tightened. I have never been on the 32nd floor. Adrian glanced at me. I know. The certainty in his voice unsettled me more than suspicion would have. We also received an alert from Ms. Bennett's apartment building. The man continued. Someone entered the hallway outside her unit after the security camera went offline. Adrian looked at me. May my team contact your building manager and check the apartment? The question surprised me. So did the fact that he waited for an answer. I thought of the encrypted drive in my purse, my father's hospital room, and the person already using my name. Yes, I said, but the building manager goes in with them, and they tell me everything they find. Adrian nodded once. Agreed. He guided me toward a private elevator at the end of the corridor. I stopped before the doors opened. Where are we going? My family's house. It has secure communications and people I trust. My father is at St. Catherine's. We can ask hospital security to watch his floor without telling them why. Ask, I said. Do not order. His patience showed its edges, but he made the call in front of me and requested additional hospital security without mentioning my father's name until I gave permission. The drive north took almost 40 minutes. Chicago passed outside in wet streaks of gold and red while Adrian sat across from me, reading files on his phone. When the car turned through iron gates, I saw a stone house rising beyond a long driveway lined with bare trees. It was not a home. It was a statement. Inside, everything was polished, quiet, and watched. A woman in her early 30s met us near the staircase. She had Adrian's dark eyes, but none of his coldness. You brought someone here, she said. Surprise softened her voice. Claire Bennett, Adrian replied. This is my sister, Vanessa. Vanessa offered me a careful smile. Anyone Adrian brings home after midnight is either important or inconvenient. At the moment, I may be both. For the first time, the corner of Adrian's mouth moved. Not a smile. Almost one. A housekeeper showed me to a guest room larger than my apartment. An unopened robe, sweatpants, and a sweater had been placed on the bed. They were close enough to my size. My phone had almost no signal inside the stone guest wing, and the wireless network required a password. I returned to the hall and found Adrian near the window. I need to call my father. He handed me a card containing the guest network password. The secured line is available in the study if you prefer it. I connected my phone. You could have simply given me this upstairs. I am accustomed to deciding what people need before they ask. That is not protection. It is control. His gaze held mine. There is a difference. Not to the person who loses the choice. I looked toward the employees who lowered their voices when he passed. You do not have loyalty in this house. You have silence. Vanessa stopped at the far end of the hallway. Adrian's face became unreadable. Before he could answer, one of his men appeared at the bottom of the staircase holding a sealed envelope inside a clear evidence sleeve. The building manager found this on Ms. Bennett's kitchen counter, he said. It was addressed to Mr. Moretti. Adrian opened it. Inside was a photograph of his mother and a note written in blue ink. He read the first line, and every trace of control disappeared from his face. Part 4. The note began with 5 words that changed the temperature of the room. Amelia never approved digital transfers. Adrian read them twice, his voice so quiet I almost thought I had imagined it. Vanessa crossed the hallway and took the photograph from his hand. It showed their mother standing beside the foundation's original clinic, one palm resting on a brass plaque, sunlight caught in her dark hair. On the back, someone had written a date from 11 years earlier. That was the last project she approved in person, Vanessa said. Adrian folded the note once, precisely, as though control could be restored through clean edges. Did anyone know you were reviewing the foundation accounts? He asked me. Margaret knew I was preparing the audit. Ethan Cross asked whether I had found anything unusual yesterday afternoon. Vanessa's expression tightened. Ethan asks questions when he already knows the answers. I held out my hand. Let me see the note. Adrian hesitated. It was left in my apartment. I reminded him. That makes it evidence connected to me. His eyes met mine, and for a moment I saw the old instinct return, the one that told him information belonged to whoever had the power to keep it. Then he placed the paper in my palm. Beneath the message was a small symbol, a circle crossed by a single vertical line. I had seen it before. This mark was in the transfer metadata, I said. It appeared beside every approval connected to your mother's project code. Adrian took the note back. My mother used that symbol on private correspondence. Then someone close to her is building the trail. Vanessa looked toward the dark windows. Or someone wants us to believe they were close to her. We moved to Adrian's study, a room lined with books, locked cabinets, and framed photographs turned slightly away from the light. He opened a wall safe behind a painting. Inside were legal files, family records, and a sealed envelope bearing Amelia Moretti's name. Adrian removed it carefully. She gave me this 3 days before she died, he said. She told me to open it if the foundation was ever threatened. And you never opened it? I asked. I believed I knew every threat. The answer carried more regret than pride. He broke the seal. Inside was the original foundation charter, and a letter directing the family to transfer future control to an independent community board. At the bottom was Amelia's handwritten signature. I compared it with the digital approvals on my laptop. The differences were small but unmistakable. The electronic copies were too smooth, too perfect. Vanessa read the letter and went pale. Adrian, she intended to remove the family from direct control. He stared at the page. She intended to remove me. I should have felt vindicated. Instead, I watched something private collapse behind his eyes. Then a second document slipped from the envelope and landed on the desk. It was a copy of the original disputed transfer, dated 2 weeks before Amelia's death. Her handwritten authorization appeared at the bottom, with Adrian's approval beneath it. I looked from the signatures to his face. You knew about this account. He closed his eyes for one brief second. Yes. The room became very still. Then tell me why. Before he could answer, my phone rang. Margaret Shaw's name glowed on the screen. When I answered, her voice shook. Claire, I copied the archive logs before my access was revoked. They connect Ethan Cross to the changes, but the live system is being rewritten. Do not trust what you see on the Foundation server. Part 5. Margaret's warning hung between us like a wire pulled tight. Adrian did not ask me to end the call. He only watched my face, as if he already knew which choice I was about to make. Where are you? I asked. At home. The backup is on an encrypted drive, and I have already contacted outside counsel. I cannot send it through the Foundation network. Is Ethan involved? His office device appears in the access history, but we need the original logs verified before accusing anyone. A pause followed, filled with the faint sound of traffic behind her. Claire, be careful. Someone is constructing a case against you. The call ended. I lowered the phone slowly. Vanessa stood near the desk, one hand pressed against the back of a chair. Adrian remained beside the open safe, the disputed transfer still between us. Tell me the truth, I said. All of it. His gaze shifted to his sister. Vanessa looked away first. That told me more than any confession could have. Adrian returned to the desk. The first transfer was legitimate, he said. My mother authorized it before she died. The money was meant to purchase land for 3 community clinics. Then why does your signature appear beneath hers? Because she was already ill. I approved the release as acting chairman. And every transfer made after her death. Fabricated. You knew there were fraudulent transfers before tonight. He did not deny it. My chest tightened. How long? 6 months. The answer was calm. Too calm. I thought of scholarship applicants rejected for lack of funding. Families placed on waiting lists. Clinics delaying equipment because the foundation claimed its reserves were low. You let it continue. I froze several accounts and kept the losses from growing while I investigated. You also kept it secret. His jaw hardened. There is a difference. Not to the people who lost help while you protected your family name. Vanessa flinched. Adrian turned the original charter toward me. Ethan discovered my mother's plan to remove family control. He used the forged transfers as leverage. Leverage over what? Vanessa finally spoke. My son. Her voice was barely above a whisper. My former husband has been trying to change our custody agreement. Ethan obtained private therapy records and threatened to release them out of context to make me appear unstable. I looked at Adrian. So you concealed financial crimes to protect her. I was buying time. With money and trust that did not belong to you. His expression tightened. I would do anything for my family. That is not love if nobody else is allowed to choose the cost. The words struck harder than I expected. Vanessa lowered her eyes. Adrian went still. I copied the documents with my phone, returned the originals to the desk, and secured the encrypted audit drive inside my purse. I am leaving. Adrian stepped toward the doorway but stopped before blocking it. If you leave now, Ethan may know you have evidence. Then I will decide what risk I take. Claire. My name sounded different in his voice. Less like a warning. More like something he was afraid to lose control of. Do not stop me. For several seconds, neither of us moved. Then Adrian stepped aside. No order. No raised voice. No guard appeared. I walked through the foyer and out into the gray light of dawn. Before I reached the gates, my phone displayed 3 notifications. My foundation access had been suspended. My bank had temporarily restricted online activity after receiving a suspicious $250,000 transfer I had never seen before. Then Detective Lucas Grant left a voicemail requesting that I come in for a formal interview regarding accounts opened under my credentials. Someone had not merely prepared to blame me. They had already begun. Part 6. The first thing I did was call my father. The second was lie to him. Everything is fine, I said while dawn spread pale light across the road beyond the Moretti estate. There is a problem with the foundation, but it will be cleared up. Hospital machines murmured behind his voice. Claire, you only say everything is fine when it is not. I closed my eyes. Please do not worry. That has never been a useful instruction. Before I could answer, a message from St. Catherine's appeared. His current medical care would continue, but the cardiac rehabilitation program scheduled for the following week required updated payment authorization because my linked account had been restricted. My stomach dropped. Dad, I have to go. I ended the call and stood beside the iron gates, holding a phone that had become a list of everything I could lose. A black sedan rolled to a stop several feet away. Adrian stepped out without an umbrella. The rain had weakened to a cold mist, settling on his coat and darkening his hair. He looked less like a man who ruled rooms and more like someone who had not slept. Your father's current treatment is secure, he said. Vanessa confirmed it with the hospital. You discussed his care without asking me? She asked only whether an active patient could lose medically necessary treatment because a linked payment account was under review. She did not use his name. I wanted to remain angry, but the relief reached me first. The rehabilitation program is different. I can cover it. No. Claire, listen to me. You listen. My account received money I never authorized. Someone wants it to look as though I was paid. If you send more money now, you will strengthen their story. He stopped. For once, he did not have an immediate answer. Let me fix this another way, he said. How? The foundation can withdraw its internal complaint. My attorneys can contact the bank and the investigators. That may help me, but it will not reveal the truth. He stepped closer, then stopped before the distance became another form of pressure. What are you asking me to do? Tell the board everything. Tell the investigators when you first discovered the transfers and why you concealed them. Give them Amelia's letter, the original authorization, and your records involving Ethan. His expression closed. You know what that would cost? Yes. The foundation could lose donors. Then rebuild their trust honestly. Vanessa's custody case could become public. Then defend her with evidence instead of secrets. His jaw tightened. You are asking me to hand every weakness I have to people who would use it against me. No, I am asking you to stop calling accountability weakness. Rain ticked softly against the sedan. Adrian looked past me toward the city, gray beneath the morning sky. Ethan controls 3 board members. He has altered records, pressured witnesses, and prepared a story that places everything on you. Margaret has an independent backup. It must be verified. Then give her time. I looked at him. Do not hold the meeting this morning. Schedule it for Monday. Invite outside counsel, a forensic accountant, Detective Grant, and a state charity investigator. Preserve every server and financial account before Ethan learns what you are doing. Adrian's gaze returned to mine. Something in him shifted, slow and quiet. He took out his phone and called Vanessa. Schedule an emergency board meeting for Monday at 10, he said. Contact outside counsel and arrange independent preservation of every financial and electronic record. He paused, looking directly at me. Tell Margaret Shaw I will give her full access to whatever she needs. And tell Ethan Cross that attendance is mandatory. For the next 3 days, my name remained beneath a cloud I could not clear. I answered questions, gave Detective Grant my devices, and sat beside my father while the bank reviewed a transfer designed to destroy me. Adrian did not send money. He did not issue orders on my behalf. He did the one thing I had asked of him. He prepared to tell the truth. Part 7. By 10 o'clock Monday morning, the foundation boardroom was full of people pretending not to be afraid. Rain streaked the windows behind the long walnut table, and the Chicago River below looked like a dark ribbon pulled tight through the city. Ethan Cross sat near the center with a silver pen beside his folder, calm enough to make me distrust him more. Detective Lucas Grant stood near the door with a state charity investigator, outside counsel, and a forensic accountant retained by the board. Margaret sat beside me with an encrypted drive and 3 printed verification reports. Vanessa sat across from us, her hands folded tightly in her lap. Adrian entered last. Every conversation stopped. He wore a charcoal suit, but something about him had changed. He did not take the chair at the head of the table. He stood beside it. This meeting is being recorded with the consent of everyone present, outside counsel said. Each person acknowledged the notice. Adrian placed a stack of documents on the table and began speaking. He admitted that he had discovered irregular transfers 6 months earlier. He admitted that he had concealed them from the full board. He explained the threats involving Vanessa, the forged digital approvals, and the pressure used to keep the foundation under family control. No excuses. No attempt to make himself look innocent. Each sentence stripped away another layer of the man I had first met beside the blank check. When he finished, the room remained silent. Ethan leaned back in his chair. A moving confession, he said. Unfortunately, none of it changes the records. Claire Bennett authorized the recent payments. The forensic accountant opened a report. Her credentials do appear in the active system logs. Every face turned toward me. Ethan's expression softened into something almost sympathetic. Ms. Bennett was under financial pressure. A large transfer entered her account last week. Adrian moved, but I raised one hand. He stopped. That mattered more than anyone in the room understood. Margaret connected the encrypted drive to an isolated computer. The active logs were altered, she said. But the foundation's compliance vendor retained immutable backups before the changes occurred. She displayed a sequence of access records. My credentials had been used, but the login originated from a device assigned to Ethan's office. A second report showed that the suspicious payment to my account had been initiated through a shell company connected to one of his consulting vendors. Ethan's expression did not change. A device can be compromised. That is true, Margaret said, which is why we also reviewed the company's recorded compliance calls. Outside counsel played a call made through a foundation line that automatically announced all conversations were being recorded. Ethan's voice filled the room. He discussed changing the transfer schedule before the audit and said that Adrian would remain silent to protect the family name. When the recording ended, Detective Grant stepped forward. "Mr. Cross, I am asking you to remain available for a formal recorded interview. You have the right to contact counsel before answering questions." Ethan closed his folder. "I have nothing to hide." No one answered him. The board voted to secure all accounts, preserve the records, withdraw the internal complaint against me, and place the foundation under temporary independent administration. Adrian submitted his resignation and introduced the motion himself. Vanessa stared at him. "You are giving up everything Mother left us." Adrian looked at Amelia's charter lying open before him. "No, I am returning what she never meant us to own." The motion passed. No one celebrated. The truth had won, but it had charged everyone a price. Adrian removed the Moretti family seal from his folder and placed it beside his signed resignation. Then he looked at me. There was no demand in his eyes. No expectation. Only the uncertainty of a man standing without the power that had always answered for him. "You saved my name," he said. I shook my head. "Margaret saved the records. You finally told the truth. What happens to your name now is up to you." Part 8. 7 weeks after the board meeting, I found Adrian sitting alone in the hospital cafeteria at 7 in the morning, holding a paper cup of coffee he had not touched. No guards stood near the doors. No black sedan waited at the curb. He wore a dark sweater instead of a tailored suit, and without the armor of his usual world, he looked younger and more tired than I remembered. My father was upstairs completing his final cardiac rehabilitation evaluation, and I had spent the night in a plastic chair beside his bed after a minor complication that had frightened us more than it harmed him. I should have walked past Adrian. Instead, I sat across from him. "How did you know I was here?" "Vanessa told me your father had been admitted overnight. I asked whether I could come. She said that was your decision, so I waited in a public room." The answer mattered. "The independent board accepted your resignation," I said. "I know. The investigation recovered most of the missing money. Margaret called me yesterday." Ethan entered a plea through his attorney. I heard. Outside the windows, Chicago was waking beneath a pale winter sky. Commuter trains moved between buildings. Delivery trucks crowded the street. Ordinary life continued as if our world had not broken open 7 weeks earlier. "What happens next?" I asked. "The family businesses are under review. The foundation will remain under community control. Vanessa kept custody of her son, and the court sealed the therapy records Ethan tried to misuse." Relief moved through me. "And you?" Adrian finally looked at me. "I am leaving Chicago for a while." "Where will you go?" "Boston first. I am converting 2 family companies into legitimate employee-owned businesses. After that, I do not know." A faint sadness touched his expression. "I need to learn whether I can build something without making fear part of the structure." I thought of the first night in the glass office, the blank check between us, and the certainty with which he had believed every problem had a number. "Knowing what you did wrong does not erase it," I said. "I know. It does not make trust automatic." "I know that too." He placed a public filing on the table. It confirmed that the board had approved the Moretti family's permanent surrender of direct authority over the foundation. No conditions. No private clauses. No path back to control. "Why are you showing me this?" "Because I wanted you to know I did not change my mind after you left the room." His voice softened. "And because I need to ask you something before I go." My heartbeat slowed, then quickened. Adrian did not reach for my hand. He did not move closer. "Would you let me stay in your life while I learn how to become someone different?" For one dangerous second, I wanted to say yes. I saw honesty in his face, fear he no longer tried to hide, and the possibility of a life neither of us had planned. But affection offered too early could become another place for him to hide. "No," I said. Pain moved through his eyes, but he accepted the word without resistance. "Not yet," I continued. "You need to learn who you are when nobody fears you. You need to do that without making me responsible for the result." He looked at me for a long moment, then nodded. "That is fair. Do not disappear because I said no." His expression softened. "What should I do?" "Build an honest life. Let time answer the question neither of us can answer today." He stood, left the untouched coffee on the table, and walked toward the exit alone. At the door, he paused but did not turn around. "Goodbye for now, Claire." I watched him disappear into the morning crowd. and for the first time, the space he left behind did not feel like abandonment. It felt like freedom. Part 9. 1 year later, the renovated Amelia Moretti Community Health Center reopened on a clear October morning beside the Chicago River. The old brick building had been transformed with new glass, accessible entrances, brighter examination rooms, and promises written into legal language strong enough to survive powerful families. I stood near the lobby, holding a folder of final budget reports while volunteers arranged coffee, flowers, and name tags. My father sat in the front row with a cane beside his chair and color restored to his face. His treatment had worked. His remaining bills had been resolved through an independent hospital assistance program, not Adrian's money, and that distinction mattered to both of us. I had spent the year helping rebuild the foundation under a community board made up of doctors, teachers, neighborhood leaders, and people once denied help by the old system. Margaret served as chief compliance officer. Every major expense was public. Every vote was recorded. No family name could outweigh the people the money was meant to serve. Most of the stolen funds had been recovered, and Ethan was awaiting sentencing after accepting responsibility for the fraud. Vanessa arrived with her son 10 minutes before the ceremony. Her custody case was over, and for the first time since I had met her, she looked unburdened. She hugged me, then handed me a small envelope. Adrian asked me to give you this only if he did not come. I looked toward the glass doors. Is he coming? Vanessa smiled. You know my brother. He still prefers difficult entrances. I had heard pieces of Adrian's life through public reports and occasional messages that asked for nothing. He had sold several private holdings, settled old obligations, and converted 2 businesses into employee-owned companies. He had funded job programs through disclosed charitable grants instead of anonymous favors. He had never called to pressure me. He had never sent gifts. He had kept his promise to change without making me responsible for the result. The ceremony began without him. My father spoke about dignity. Vanessa spoke about her mother. I explained that the center would provide primary care, counseling, and financial guidance regardless of income. When I stepped away from the microphone, the doors opened. Adrian entered alone. No guards. No procession. He wore a navy suit and carried nothing in his hands. Everyone in the room noticed him, but the room did not become silent from fear. People simply turned to see the man whose family name remained on the building, though his authority did not. He stopped a few feet from me. You built it, he said. We built it. You made sure nobody could own it. That was the point. His eyes moved toward the plaque bearing his mother's name. She would have trusted you. She might have argued with me first. A quiet laugh escaped him. It was the first sound I had heard from Adrian that carried no calculation. I have learned that trust usually begins with an argument. We walked through the center while patients arrived for their first appointments. He asked questions and listened to every answer. He did not interrupt. He did not offer to fix anything before understanding it. Near the rear exit, afternoon light stretched across the floor between us. I leave for Boston tonight, he said. Another business trip? A second chance at one. He paused. I did not come to ask you for anything. I know. He looked almost relieved, then turned toward the door. I watched him take several steps before something inside me became clear. He had once offered me millions because he believed every decision could be purchased. Now he was leaving with empty hands because he had learned that love without freedom was only another form of control. Adrian, I called. He stopped and looked back. I crossed the distance between us. You asked me a question in the hospital last year. His expression became still. I remember. Ask me again. Hope entered his eyes carefully, like a man approaching an unlocked door he had no right to open without permission. Will you have dinner with me when I return? I smiled. Yes. It was only one word, but this time neither of us mistook it for ownership. He had once ruled through silence. I had once survived by refusing his price. Somewhere between losing power and learning patience, he became a man worthy of an answer money could never buy.